Hello my friends, today we're gonna make a frickin' huge future house drop similar to Mike Williams and FL Studio 20. We're gonna set the BPM to 145. This will be a very fast future house drop and it's inspired by Mike Williams' new song Closing Time. Alright guys, let's start by making some nice chords. Then let's make an emotional melody on top. Now that we're done with the melody, we can begin on the drop. We'll begin by making a powerful bass line and then we're gonna create the rest of the drop using the bass line as the foundation. We're gonna start with a serum layer playing the bass line. Now we'll add some more bass layers to make the bass fatter and more powerful. Guys, now that we have a decent bass line, we're gonna add a few mixing effects to make the bass a lot more powerful. We also want to make it more crisp and bright. We're gonna begin by mixing the mid bass. I started by adding an EQ. As you can see, I removed quite a bit of the highs and high mids, and I did that because the lead will take up those frequencies and we don't want the bass to clash with the lead. Then I added quite a bit of compression using OTT. Then an EQ removing some harsh high frequencies created by the OTT. A lot of compression and distortion using Camel Crusher EQ. A soundizer to add some more power. And a couple more EQs to shape the sounds after we added all those effects. This, my friends, is what the mid bass sounds like without the mixing effects. And this is with. Now we're gonna quickly mix the sub bass. We'll take it from this to this. In order to achieve that, we're gonna add distortion with fruity fast dist, compression with OTT, a soundizer to add some more power, and an EQ removing the highs and high mids. This is what the full bass line sounds like. I added this volume automation for the bass to make it sound a bit more bouncy. Now that we have a solid bass line, we can use the bass line as a foundation for the rest of the drop and add more and more elements on top of it. We want to add stuff that fits with the groove of the bass line. The first thing we're gonna do is to turn the bass line into a full beat. We're gonna do that by adding some nice drums and effects on top. If we make a really strong beat with a bass line and drum pattern that fit together, it will be very easy to make the rest of the drop on top. Alright guys, we'll begin with a basic drum beat. Now we're gonna add some percussion sounds to add some groove. And lastly, we'll add a crisp downlifter. This is what the full beat and bass line sounds like. Nice. I think that's a pretty solid foundation on which we can build the rest of the drop. The first thing we're gonna make are some nice and wide chords. We want the chords to add some emotion to the beat and bass, but we also want them to add a lot of energy. We'll begin with a synth one layer playing these chords. Then we're gonna add some more chord layers to make them bigger. Now guys, we're gonna add some mixing effects on the chords to make them bigger and more dirty. The goal is for the chords to add as much energy to the drop as possible. We'll begin with an EQ taking down a bit of these high frequencies so the chords won't clash with the lead. Then compression using OTT. A second EQ to lower the harsh high frequencies created by the OTT. Some distortion and compression using Camel Crusher. A third EQ to really remove those high harsh frequencies. We want the chords to be very thick and airy, not harsh. Lastly, I added a fruity stereo shaper to make the chords wider. This, my friends, is what the chords sound like without all of the mixing effects. And this is with the mixing effects. This, guys, is what we have so far. I like it, but we're gonna add a guitar layer on top to add some nice texture to the drop. I added this FL Studio stock guitar layer, which is playing the same chords as the main chord layers. We want the guitar chords to be very bright and crisp to add some nice texture to the drop, so we're gonna add a few mixing effects to make them brighter and more powerful in the mix. We're gonna add an EQ to shape the sound first, then a lot of compression using OTT. After that I added a few EQs to make the guitar sound more clean, and lastly a fruity stereo shaper to make the guitar chords wider. This is what the guitar chords sound like without the mixing effects. And this is with. This, guys, is what the main chords sound like without the guitar layer on top. And this is with the guitar layer. We're also gonna add some nice harmony chords on top to add some more emotion to the drop. I used a very distorted saw layer playing these harmonies. And I controlled them with this cutoff automation. This is what the chords sound like without the harmony chords on top. This is with the harmony chords. The harmony chords add quite a bit more emotion to the drop, which is nice. Now guys, I think we have a quite decent beat. The last thing we have left now is to make a huge lead on top. But first, I would truly appreciate it if you subscribed and turned on post notifications. Guys, now that we have a nice foundation which is quite powerful, it will be much easier to make a nice lead that fits on top. Since most of the power in the drop will come from this beat, the main focus for the lead will be to make it sound really emotional and big. We don't want the lead to be too harsh, but we still want it to add a lot of energy to the drop. We're gonna begin with a detoned serum layer, playing the lead melody. Now let's add some more layers to make the lead bigger and fatter. Now my friends, we're gonna mix the lead. We wanna make it as fat and thick as possible. Since the bass, chords and drums are very powerful on their own, we need to make the lead very thick in order to fit in the mix. We're gonna begin by adding quite a bit of compression using OTT. Then we're gonna add 2 EQs to clean up the dirty frequencies created by the OTT. After that we're gonna add distortion and compression using Camel Crusher EQ, a soundizer to add more power, some more distortion with fruity fast dist, then a final EQ to clean up the lead a bit more, and lastly I added a fruity stereo shaper to make the lead a bit wider. This, my friends, is what the lead sounds like without all of the mixing effects. And this is with. We're also gonna add a reverb and control it using this reverb automation. Now guys, we're gonna add a very distorted synth shot on top of the lead, playing the entire lead melody. This is what the lead sounds like without the synth shot on top. And this is with the synth shot. The synth shot adds some more texture to the lead and makes it a bit more present in the mix. We're also gonna add this cool little transition to the second half of the drop. Alright guys, that was all of the elements of the drop, but before I show you the final result I would truly appreciate it if you checked my future house sample pack. Link is in the description. Alright guys, here's the final result. If you liked the video, please be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Love you guys.